episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash, and welcome back to part 2 of the most accurate mock draft you will ever see. It's the only time we've done a predictive mock draft this off season, and last episode we did the first 18 picks. We'll remind you of what those are. Caleb Williams, number 1, Drake May, number 2, Jaden Daniels, number 3, after the Raiders traded up with the New England Patriots, Marvin Harrison Jr., number 4, to the Cardinals, Malik Neighbors, number 5, to the Chargers, Rome Odunze, number 6, to the Giants, Joe Alt, number 7, to the Titans. The Vikings trade up to number 8 to take J.J. McCarthy. The Bears take Leatu Latu at number 9. Byron Murphy II goes number 10 to the Jets. Terrion Arnold, number 11, to the Falcons. Dallas Turner, number 12, to the Broncos. Brock Bowers, number 13, to the Patriots, because again, remember that trade happened. Pick 14 is the Saints. They take Fuaga. Pick 15 is the Colts. They take Brian Thomas Jr. Fautanu goes to the Seahawks at pick 16, Quinion Mitchell, pick 17 to the Jags, and we finished it off at pick 18 with Fashanu. We're going to finish it off today, get to pick 33 because why not? But before we get into that, why not? Before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
The day just started. It's 7:58 a.m., so really I haven't done too much.
How have you been doing so far this week, I should say?
How have I been doing this week? Doing pretty well. Had some friends over last night. Had a friend over to watch the Lakers Nuggets game, and
there you go.
Had to prevent him from calling in a bomb threat to Ball Arena to get the game stopped. It's been fun.
My day also just started. I mean, it's only a couple hours forward. I did already hit the gym,
Okay.
kind of on top of it. Not many people could do that. And I went to bed late last night, like real late. So how I got it done, we don't know. But I'm very proud of myself. I'm very happy. I'm off to a real strong start. Thank you.
I woke up early today too. And yesterday I was fighting some crazy sleep. Like, it was 5 p.m. and I'm just like dying. And then I had band practice in the evening and I'm like falling asleep while we're trying to write a song. And it was bad. But I eventually got to bed and I woke up at like 7:30 this morning. And I'm like, that's like a record for me.
I will say I'm a little nervous that we maybe got too aggressive saying that the quarterbacks were going to fall. I mean, I guess it's just McCarthy we're saying is going to fall. But there's been talk basically exclusively of like, dude, the first 5 picks are going to be quarterbacks. So McCarthy is going at 5 and Penix is going to go high and Bo Nix is going to go high. And I know our take is that doesn't always happen or work out like that, but it has before in like 2021. Granted, maybe those guys were just better prospects. So I don't hate it, but definitely a bold take of ours is that the quarterbacks are not going to go that high. And I feel like I could immediately turn around and be like, okay, well, we're sitting here at pick 6 and 4 have gone, and it looks like Penix and Nix are going to go, and we were wrong.
It could be. And I've also heard that despite the drama and with the agent and despite Jaden Daniels. This is why I got to record later in the morning. I wake up, I roll out of bed, and I just get all the names wrong. Anyway, I've continued to hear since our last mock draft that Daniels is entrenched in that number 2 spot, according to all the mocks that I've seen. Even though I'm also seeing reports that is like, yeah, Washington is cool for Daniels, but really where he'd like to go is the Raiders, is a tweet that I saw. Or like, you'd really like to go work with KOC and the Vikings. It's like, what, bro, you should consider yourself lucky to be mentioned above Drake May going number 2 overall to the Commanders. And this reporting is coming out like, it's okay that he goes there. Like, you really want to go to Minnesota. He really wants to go see Antonio Pierce again. It's like, what? You should be like, shut up, dude. Don't ruin this for yourself. Like, I guess maybe it's better to go to Minnesota than Washington, and I guess it's not ruining anything if he goes there because he probably has a better chance to succeed. But Man, I see reports like that, and it almost doesn't check out in my brain. I'm like, I get it. It's all Daniels. I get that all the insiders, everybody who's talked to anybody says it's Daniels number two. But it's like, how is Daniels like fading Washington in the media when he's not as good of a prospect as May? I just do not understand.
And he's somehow a lock. It really doesn't add up.
I don't get it. Like,
None of
why
it
is he
adds up,
starting
man.
on this foot where he's like, yeah, if
And
that's really where he's going?
This is why I don't buy any of the quarterback drama, man. It's just
But
like
it's so hard. There's just so many people at this point that are
it's it's cool to say that, and then all of a sudden somebody who you think is like a good reporter or like a good insider is saying something, and you have to be like, yeah, bro, you're lying. And I know that for no reason. Like, I just think that. I don't have anything to
tweet
back it
him,
up.
be
You're
like-
wrong.
Yeah, I think Daniel Jeremiah said that Adam Peters isn't telling anybody who the number 2 overall pick is. At least that's what he said a couple days ago or a week ago or so. But then even he was on McAfee being like, man, I really didn't want to say anything, but everybody I talked to says Daniels, so I guess that's what I'm going with. And that's Daniel Jeremiah. And it's like, we're not plugged in. So I don't know if the top of this draft will age correctly, but it still just doesn't feel right. Like, I feel like at the last second we could be vindicated. I can't totally discount it because of what I've been hearing about Daniels and how he's kind of lukewarm on Washington. It's like, if he's lukewarm, why take him? He's not as good of a prospect. He's not as good. He's just 24 and May is 21 in a dog shit situation compared to Daniels. Like, that's what it is, man. I'm telling you.
24-year-old going from like the best situation ever to a worse situation. Like, I don't know, man.
To Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'll say this. I thought Washington had the potential to be like kind of like a pretty decent situation, and they have not moved me a ton since.
It's just Cliff, right? Like, come on, dude. Cliff is not that good of an offensive coordinator. His offense is like hitches, which I guess is what Daniels ran kind of at LSU a little bit, is like a lot of hitches and goes. And you just...
Yeah, but they won't have Neighbors and Brian Thomas, you know?
They won't. But their receiving core isn't that bad, is the thing.
No,
but
it's not.
they'll like high-low you, and because there's so many hitches in the offense, it's really convenient to scramble because everybody is just kind of standing around after a second or two. And so when you scramble, everybody's like looking at the quarterback. They're in a natural position to go into create mode. So it's kind of... I mean, he's worked with Manziel and Mahomes and Kyler and Caleb, right? Like, those are the kinds of quarterbacks that he wants to work with. And a lot of them, like, yeah, it's like check the hitch, check the go, and then scramble. And that's the whole offense. And it's just like not that good. It's got its limitations. And by the end of the year, like, other offenses are running more smoothly than the like run around offense. So the fact that they have like him and Dan Quinn, who I said at the beginning of last year, like, his defense is not going to translate when he plays LaFleur and when he plays Shanahan because they give up 50 every time. And then they did in the playoffs. It's like, holy cow, this coaching staff seems very mid to me.
And then their signings weren't good either, outside of, Frankie Louvu. But
I thought their signings were like whatever, like Eckler.
I thought it was a lot of like, I got to get guys who can do my stuff in there, and I didn't think it was a bunch of game changers. And I thought they spent a decent amount. Like, none of them are disasters. A lot of them are very short deals, so it's like, all right, I guess.
It kind of reminds me of what the Texans did last year when they signed like Shaq Mason and like Jimmy Ward and like Devin Singletary, and it was just like they brought in like a bunch of vets. And it just like made the roster. It was a lot of money, but it just made the roster slightly more old and competent. And then the real key is like they hit on their head coach and quarterback.
Well, maybe this is the take, because I felt like the Panthers got a lot of their guys in and it was a disaster. Like, I felt like they kind of did the same thing. So it just depends on whether or not like you are good and your system is good. So if you get players in for your system who are maybe a little mid, is it okay or is it a disaster?
Yeah, I think like bringing in like a bunch of vets like Doris Armstrong, like it'll be a net positive. It's better them than like an undrafted free agent, and Washington had a ton of money to spend. But I'm just not confident in like that Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn will be like CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans. That's where I'm at. Like
Yes,
just that
I
that'd
would
be
agree with you. I would
that'd be
agree
just
with you.
messing up the macro biggest thing, but whatever.
When it comes to your feet, eBay's got your back because with eBay's authenticity guarantee, real experts are checking your sneakers, every stitch down to the sole. Me personally, I'm a big fan of a classic Air Force or maybe a nice suede or leather boot, but whatever it is that you're adding to the lineup next, head to eBay. From the drop to your doorstep, eBay does not play with your sneaker game. Just look for that blue check mark. So ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. Are you tired of the stress and uncertainty that often comes with buying tickets for events? Picture this. You're excited about attending your favorite band's concert or catching the big game, but the ticket buying process leaves you feeling frustrated and unsure. Well, you're not alone, but fear not, because there is a solution. Game Time. Game Time is your go-to destination for hassle-free ticket buying. Say goodbye to the days of uncertainty and hello to last-minute deals, all-inclusive prices, and the confidence of knowing exactly what you're getting. Personally, I've had my fair share of ticket buying nightmares, but since discovering Game Time, it's been smooth sailing. With their user-friendly app, I can easily browse upcoming events in my area, from concerts to playoff games and everything in between. What sets Game Time apart? Well, for starters, they're all about giving you peace of mind with your purchase. You can preview the view from your seat before buying, ensuring there are no unpleasant surprises when you arrive. Plus, their all-in prices mean you'll never be hit with hidden fees at checkout. But here's the kicker. Game Time is obsessed with helping you save money. From last-minute deals to exclusive flash sales, they've got you covered. And with their zone deals, you can score big-time savings by letting Game Time pick the seats for you. So why wait? Take the guesswork out of ticket buying and download the Game Time app today. And to sweeten the deal, you can use the code BLAIDENK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, so don't miss out on this exclusive offer. Again, that's BLAIDENK, BLAIDENK, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time now for last-minute tickets, lowest prices, and guaranteed satisfaction. Whatever. Let's finish out the mock draft. We left off at pick number 19 with the LA Rams. Yeah, I just got to get back in the draft mindset. Okay, so some of the guys we have available at this point? Johnny Newton is probably one of the top. Would probably be my best player available at this point. They could use a defensive lineman. And someone with that skill set.
They could use a new defensive tackle. They did lose.
They could.
A pretty important guy.
They could use a left tackle as well. When you look at the Rams depth chart, I thought Tyron Smith could be a fit for them in free agency. They had Joe Noteboom, but he's kind of banged up. And is he even on the team anymore? Yeah, he's there. He's more a backup. So now they got Alaric Jackson in at that left tackle spot. On ESPN, they have Jonah Jackson, former Bengal, lined up at left guard, and he could play tackle. But somewhere along that left side, they could use some line help, I guess. I don't know exactly what their plan would be.
I don't know. They also... they could really go either way. They could also go DB. That's another, Cooper DeJean's available. I don't think we've taken Nate Wiggins yet, so both of those guys,
The thing about Wiggins, though, is that the reports are that everybody is not a fan of him and that he's going to fall out of the first round. And I tend to believe him. With the Rams, I mean, I honestly think that this would be where Newton would go. I don't know if that's crazy, but I think
I don't think it's
lacking defensive playmakers at this point. And that is their number one biggest need. They need offensive linemen, sure. But they need somebody who can be a game changer for them on defense, because with Donald out, I mean, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah. Byron Young and Kobe Turner were solid role players along that defensive line, but without a difference maker, Matt, I think you're right. I don't know how much success they're going to see up front.
Plus you need two, or you need
Yes.
two more, I guess. Like you got those two, which are nice,
Right.
but the other two are big question marks. DeJuan
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Um,
I would be
is he-
fine taking.
Holy cow! I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Desjuan Johnson was like a 7th-round pick. I remember watching him and actually thinking he had a little bit of juice out of Toledo last year. So maybe hold on a minute. They got this day 3 sleep. One of my day 3
How many
sleepers
snaps?
last
How many
year.
snaps did he play last year?
I don't know, but he was very disruptive as a pass rusher. I still
We've
don't think
got
he would.
PFF has him with 105 snaps last year. That's
How many
actually.
pressures did he have?
Ugh. Don't ask me that. 5.
Hey,
What is that? That's not a very high pressure.
understand.
No, it's
7th-round pick sample size. Let's get it.
No, I don't. I mean, I like him. I liked him last year. I kind of forgot about him. But I agree. I just don't think Newton is going to fall as far as is being projected right now into the late 20s or 2nd round. I just don't see it. He's so productive. He's super talented. There's a lot of teams that should covet that interior pass rusher mold. Like it's
I
very
would say
highly thought of
either-
right now. Like getting
I would say
interior
either
pressure,
Newton or DeJean. I think those are probably the two biggest fits for them.
Let's go with Newton.
Okay.
I think it's possible. I do.
All right. So Johnny Newton, 19 to the Rams. Number 20, Pittsburgh Steelers. What would they do?
Theo, you've got an opinion about this.
I do have an opinion about this. I really think that the Ayuk deal could go down and Pittsburgh actually ends up with him. I don't know if it's one of those things that I think is like more likely maybe than people give it credit for, and maybe not more likely than not, but I do think it makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense. I think a contract isn't done yet. There's a lot of whispers about it. I don't think this is the exact same as the Nick Bosa situation. Like when Nick Bosa was up for contract and it wasn't done, and it was getting deep into summer and it wasn't done, like I don't know what we were saying. It got to the point where maybe we were like, hold on. But that was Nick Bosa. He was Defensive Player of the Year. This is Brandon Ayuk. I think he's a bit more tradable than that. In the playoffs, he's only given him 40 yards a game and 1 touchdown in 9 games. Like he's never gone over 75 yards. And I don't think that's like a great way to look at it, saying like, oh, he's never had a good playoff performance in the past. Like he never will. They're going to trade him. But if he wants a huge contract right now in the $26-27 million range, and they say, look, you've given us like at the end, we're looking at we're replacing 40 yards at the end so far. Like we haven't quite seen that from you. And if he's really willing to hold out and they're kind of tied up against the cap and like need some relief, like if they could get a first for Ayuk, I think they would at least listen. Now, would you give up a first for Ayuk?
That's
and then
the
give him a
thing
huge
is
contract?
I'm sitting here saying, would you? I don't know if I would give up.
I think I might. I think like Ayuk is pretty good, and
he's really good, but like AJ Brown went for a first.
so did Marquise Brown.
That's true. That's
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So did Hollywood.
Didn't Brown go for a first and a third, and Marquise go for a third, and then like he was packaged with a third for first? I could be totally off base.
He may have been, but at the end of the day, that pick changed hands because of the Marquise Brown trade. I guess I don't remember all the details, and I think it could be very possible that Ayuk gets traded not just for number 20, but it's Ayuk in a third for a 20, which isn't the exact same thing. But I don't know if I think we might as well project it, honestly, if I have this opinion and I'm somewhat swaying you. But I look at the Steelers and I see the position they're in. They've got Pickens as wide receiver 1, and then it's who? Like it's your boy Matt, fantasy legend, Van Jefferson. Is he wide receiver 2?
Yeah, and they were willing to move on from Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, and Tomlin, if they don't have success, like are they kind of up against it? Like, is he going to go through a rebuild? They were really aggressive already this offseason, bringing in 2 different quarterbacks. They've got the running game. They've got a pretty good offensive line. Like, they just really need that receiving core. They got the defense. Like, they have 9 wins every time anyway. Like, they just need some
They do have
weapons,
9
honestly.
wins every time. I every time I do like a personal mock draft and I think about like what would I want to do here, I want to take receiver, but all the receivers that I would have here at the top of, like, at this point, it's like I want, Leggett, and I want Brian Thomas, and I'm like, well, they already have Pickens. Like, we don't need another contested catch artist, and there really isn't I mean, you could take Ladd here, but I feel like that'd be a pretty big reach.
You could take Worthy as well.
I also think that would be a reach, but if they like Worthy, like, that's a very reasonable thing that, like, that could happen here.
It could. I just don't know. I just don't know. I think a center could also be huge. Graham Barton, or Jackson Powers Johnson as well.
I've given them Powers Johnson a lot.
Yeah, and Graham Barton projects as center as well. I know. I just bring him up like he's a center, even though he's listed as tackle and everything, and that might be jarring for some people. But he's just he plays center tackle like a center. Like, he doesn't really kick slide the way you'd expect a lot of the time. Like, he's not out on an island in pass protection. Like, he's playing tackle, but he's playing it just stylistically like you'd expect the center to play it. Like, there's a lot of moving down towards, like, crashing down towards the end. There's a lot of, like, double teams and climbing. There's a lot of settling and blocking someone from straight on, because there's so many, like, 3-3 alignments in college football, and that end is, like, right on top of the center, or that end is right on top of the tackle to begin. So it's like you can really see a center's skill set when you watch him play, and his arms are a bit short. So a natural move inside is, like, probably.
I would say, if we haven't really had anything weird happen yet, so I'm kind of down to do the trade, Theo, but
let's do the trade, because then I want to think about who the 49ers would take, and I think that's.
Man. Matt, are you good with this?
Oh yeah, I think. I mean, dude, we're not going to get that many picks right. Let's be real.
What do you mean, man? We're getting every pick right.
As long as everything that we say at least makes some sense,
I think it does.
And it's more fun if we do some gut check predictions,
So what are you thinking? Like, Brandon Ayuk and pick 94?
Well, we haven't gone into the exact trade details, and we don't got to figure it out, but it's probably just for the first straight up.
A trade, yeah. A trade centering around Brandon Ayuk in number 20.
First.
All right.
Would the 49ers go the Diggs and Justin Jefferson route and just try to immediately replace Ayuk with
the thing is that they have 2 first, and I wonder if they feel better about the linemen at 20 and better at the receivers at 31 than the other way around. That would be my guess. I agree that their 2 big needs are a receiver and offensive line, but if I had 20 and 31, I'd probably be looking for, like, Latham or Barton right now, and then at 31 I'd be thinking about Leggett or
I could definitely see them going with Barton. I know that it's who the Packers prefer, to be completely honest with you, like, and the 49ers are kind of similar to what Green Bay wants to do. So if I think Barton would be the Packers pick, I think it's fair to say he could also be the 49ers pick.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why maybe in our world, San Francisco would really like to trade up to 20, because not only do they, maybe not want to pay Ayuk in this situation, but they want to be a little bit higher in the first so they can go and get Barton,
And they're going up ahead of, like, the Packers and the Dolphins, which are kind of their main stylistic ahead of the Dolphins.
It really does work out well for them. If that's what they want to do. So I think Barton makes a ton of sense, because I'll be real with you. I was sitting here like, okay, next pick will be Barton for the Dolphins, if not here.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that would have been ahead of them that could have easily, they could be left with none of the offensive linemen that they might want. So, yeah, I'm perfectly fine going Barton here at 20. So that brings us to 21 to the Dolphins.
I honestly think they'll go Xavier Worthy. No joke.
Oh,
really?
Just the fast guy.
I think He's not just a fast guy though. Like I think he
No,
can't beat press, but like he legitimately can like run routes, and he's actually quite a good downfield route runner, and he really is just so fast. Like he's got the kind of speed where, I mean, he broke the 40 time record, but it just stands out in a very Dolphins-y type of way. And they need a wide receiver 3, like, or just a third weapon, whether it be a tight end, a third wide receiver, something like that. You guys can overrule me, but let it be known for posterity that I think the Dolphins would take Worthy here if he was there.
I don't know, man. Offensive line would be such a big need for him.
It's true.
And I think they're sitting here with Latham at 21, which feels pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I would wonder if that would be the direction that they would go. That was my first thought. I mean, you're not
right
gonna
there with you, Matt.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be a lot of investment in the receivers. I guess they don't have a lot of. They have what, like 2 picks in this draft? They have like none of their.
Do they?
They have they have more than 2 picks, but they don't have a lot, right? They're one of the less, like only 4 or 5 or something. Regardless, they haven't really signed, but they let so many of their.
They don't have a third or a fourth.
Okay, wow.
Which is pretty.
I don't know. Yeah, it's significant, but I don't know if it tells us much about what they're going to do at 21.
No, it doesn't tell us much about that, but they will. They pick at 55, and then they don't pick again until 158. So
I just wonder if my thought would be, I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong. It would be a very Dolphins thing to do.
And that's what I keep coming back to. It's like, would anybody be surprised?
It does seem like something they would do. However,
would any of us be surprised if we're sitting there at 21 and the Dolphins take Worthy? I just feel like it's just.
I wouldn't be surprised, but
if they sat, if this was the way the board fell and it was Latham and it's like they picked him and it's like, well, duh, because they need an offensive line and they're not going to spend even more assets on, a tackle or whatever, or on a receiver, which they can hardly afford.
Could I say they get the ball out so fast that tackle doesn't even matter for them? Like,
you could say it.
We don't even need protection. Tua is just getting the ball out that fast. Like, I'd rather have another wide receiver, and it would do more for us. But
if you want to go Worthy, I'm down for it. I think they'd go Latham though.
I would go with Worthy. I just think that he's more of a he just seems like more of a Dolphin to me. I'm putting
People
my
do
foot
crazy
down.
stuff all the time.
We just did 2 crazy things
It'd
back
be a little
to back.
crazy. It's not an unheard of pick. It's not like you're like making it up. I think it would be crazy to go with a third receiver. I mean, they lost a lot of firepower on their offensive line, and I already thought their offensive line was like not the strongest unit in the world.
No, it's not.
And it feels like, I agree, they do need a third weapon though. So it's not like wasted money or nothing. But man, it feels like there's cheaper ways to get a number 3.
It does. Worthy is just such a Dolphin, man.
Yeah, but they would be so fast. That would be so dope.
So fast.
They'd be so fast.
All right,
and I feel
enough.
like if the question is like, do they really need to be that fast? I think like Mike McDonald would be like, yeah, dude, we do need to be that fast.
All right, so the Eagles here at 22. I have 2 propositions for you. The first is Cooper DeJean. The second is Jackson Powers Johnson. I'll let you 2 decide which one you prefer.
DeJean.
Yeah.
I agree with DeJean.
I have to agree as well. I mean, I think he's expected to go pretty high, and this is about as far as I've seen him fall in at least some of the mocks that I've looked at. I agree. There's definitely some concerns with the hip tightness or whatever. But I think he's still a really good player when the ball's in front of him. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the Eagles desperately need more defensive backs. It's starting to get the cornerback room, especially for them, is going to start getting, as Bradbury and Slay have aged, it's more and more questionable every year. It wasn't really great last year even. So
yeah, and I like his fit with Philly. I think he's more of a weapon than like, just an outside corner. We're playing like we're gonna play him in man all the time. Like that's not what he would do in Fangio's defense. Like he'd probably be in that star position in the slot, and just causing problems near the ball as much as he can. And he is super physical, and he is, he can take the ball away, and he, isn't that bad in coverage. I just worry when I watched him. I think I was too harsh on him in my video, but I was just like, he's in the Big Ten West or whatever, and it's like he just never gets tested. It's like, oh my god, he just never ever gets tested. It's like,
No.
I mean, should that not be a good thing that no one wants to
I just
test
don't know.
him?
It's just like, I would test him.
He never gets tested by the receivers because they're bad more than like the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks aren't scared to throw at him. They're scared to throw in general, man.
Exactly.
They're scared to throw in general.
Like Cooper, I'm sure Cooper could have started for. That's the thing. Cooper DeJean probably could have started for a couple of Big Ten West teams at quarterback because he played in high school and it's bleak out there, man.
Yeah, like I watched some like his Penn State game, and I'm like, he's playing off, and like they're running these comebacks, and like he's not even really guarding them, and like the game has come and gone, and I'm like, okay, nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Well, it's weird because you watch Iowa's defense and they run cover 3 with no outside help, and so they just always let up these comebacks. And no, they just like don't even care. They just like don't care to guard them at all.
Yeah, but he has his highlights, and
he does.
I think he could fit in. Like, I think he would fit in Philadelphia well. Yeah. I do.
I like the fit a lot. I think he's just so versatile. You can move him all over the place. You can disguise a lot of different coverages. I think he makes your defense just, you can do more. So
yeah.
Cooper DeJean at 22. Now we're back to the Minnesota Vikings.
He's going to be a Packer, though. I'll tell you right now. Like, it makes sense that the Eagles just took him, but he's going to be a Packer because I don't like him, and he would like fit their defense, I think. So
I think that would be a great pick for Green Bay. I think that would be a great pick for them.
And he's strong, and I don't like him. I've never seen a clearer Green Bay Packer when I think about it. So I think, like, I don't know why the Eagles wouldn't take him here, but I just feel in my gut that
I could see them taking Powers Johnson to try and replace
Kelsey,
but
see it, or Graham Barton, another.
Yeah, if Barton's there. But we're here at 23, Minnesota. We had them trading up to take JJ McCarthy earlier. What do they do at 23?
They keep pick 23 because they didn't move up that much, which puts them in a very weird position at 23 where there's not a lot to talk about, I feel like, what they might do. And the board has fallen in a weird way. A lot of the top guys, I wonder if, like, Verse, I don't feel like he's much of a Flores guy.
Chop seems more like a Flores guy to me.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I don't know if they like are desperate for a tackle. That would be the next thing to take, or a receiver, and that would probably be with Mitchell the next thing to take.
Dog, so imagine Jefferson, Addison, any receiver that you want to take, Hawkinson. I mean, they'd be stupid.
I mean, it would be an awesome fantasy team, but Brian Flores would be standing there like, what about me, guys? Like, you got rid of Daniil. I'm working with Jerry Tillery, Harrison Phillips, Jonathan Bullard, Jonathan Grenard, and Andrew Van Ginkel. Which I guess,
get this guy a pass.
And leave it at that.
Yeah, I think we could leave it at that. I like Grenard. I like Van Ginkel, Harrison Phillips. Like, there needs to be a starter. Tillery needs to get out of the starting lineup, first of all. And they need like a star outside.
I like Chop here. I would like Chop here.
I think so too. I think that I watched him versus like Iowa, and he like aligned over the center and just like bull rushed the fuck out of them, and generally had a lot of success going up against like guards and stuff inside. And I think he's got that like lightning quick first step where if he's ever free off the edge, which he would be in the Flores scheme, like it's just he's going to be on the quarterback and like instantly, and Flores can move him around. He definitely seems like a Flores guy to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Verse just doesn't quite seem that type of guy for them.
I cannot believe Adisa Isaac is above Chop on the PFF simulator. I cannot believe
What?
that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
I think
God, I didn't
people
even
have
know
gotten a little
PFF.
too low on Chop. I still
I
I
agree.
watch him and I see nothing but excellent play. I understand the concerns, I do, but there's just a point where his bend around the edge and his burst and his get off becomes such a superpower that like into the first, this it's not that strong of a draft where I'm not like pretty easily taking him.
I,
I'd be
Yeah.
I'd
I
be
mean, Adisa Isaac has a fraction of his tools, and like his tape isn't that much better. Like it's not better. It's not better. Like the high end stuff just is not really there with Adisa Isaac at all. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I
he's
think it's
just a
just,
guy. Like he is just a guy on that defense. Chop needs a
but
lot
he
more
had 9
refinement.
sacks. He had 9 sacks, and that.
Yeah, he did have 9 sacks, but it's like, oh my god, like
I
Chop.
agree. I agree with you, but like, as far as like why, that's probably
I
like
know,
the
but
sack
he's just
totals.
not. He's not going to go anywhere close to Chop in the draft. I'll say. I think.
I
So,
would agree with you. I like Chop here to Minnesota. I think that's a good fit. And that brings us to 24. I think this is probably JPJ.
I don't know if probably is the right word, just because I mean it makes sense, but you just don't
I guess
really
there's
see
other
Jackson Howard
guys.
Johnson's
Yeah.
name in the first round anymore.
I need it though.
but Bladen, we're trying to predict it. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about.
Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible that he ends up going at the Cowboys pick, because I actually really do like it, but I mean that's our headcanon, and we really do get into our headcanons here on Stay Hot. But I
Okay,
guess
so
what else would it be?
what else could they do here? Right?
Well, they could go wide receiver. They don't really target out wide a whole lot.
Yeah.
They
I
like
think
to use
Latham
a lot,
would
but-
be a really nice pick for him. I think that's.
Oh yeah, Latham is still there.
But
Yeah, why
I
don't we
still-
go with that? He
I
gets
honestly
much
think
way higher.
I think
honestly.
this is probably way too low for Latham. I think he will probably go much higher than this. Granted, no matter what, you're probably going to have a guy or two like that. So I'm not mad at it. But if they wanted to add to the offensive line, JPJ is a great player, but they're not going to pick him over a tackle like Latham. I don't think, just from
I
a
think that's
value
fair.
standpoint. And if they really love JPJ, they could trade back up for him if that's what it came down to. But
Yeah,
I think they go with.
And Latham and JPJ, I think, are similar, where it's just like the raw power that they possess is ridiculous. Those two are probably the strongest offensive linemen in the draft class. I mean, they touch you and you just go flying down the field at times. And
Yeah, man.
I mean, Latham gets his hands on you, and his grip strength is ridiculous. The rep is just over if he really lands his punch. And sometimes
And they're both really young. They're both really young.
they're both young, and they're both a bit inconsistent. Sometimes I watch Latham and I'm like, what were you doing just then? Like, did you just go on autopilot and just forget who you were supposed to block? And same thing with JPJ. When you watch him, it's like they'll run something and it's like just he's on a side mission doing like not really making sense in the typical blocking scheme that you see the runs in. So I think they're both similar, but JPJ maybe has the injury concerns, and it seems like everybody who's plugged in thinks Latham is going to go way above him. So if we like Latham, if we like JPJ to the Cowboys, we should like Latham. I agree, Matt, that is a more legitimate pick.
So that brings us to the Green Bay Packers. I mean, what would they do here?
It's tough to say. It's really tough to say. I think a lot of the
This
guys
would not be the greatest board fall for them.
No,
at
it
all.
absolutely would not be. I think they would want DeJean. I think they would want. I think they would want Graham Barton. I think they could add a wide receiver. That's my hot take for the Packers. Like,
I don't think that's crazy. I don't think they really have like a crazy one. They have a lot of very good guys, though. It's a very deep receiver room. But if you felt like there was somebody there who was like, oh, they could be like a game changer, you'd think about it.
I think Brian Thomas Jr. is one of those guys where like he's from a huge program. He is huge. He's 6'4". He's crazy fast. Like he just kind of seems like the type of player that the Packers would draft, and they just like competition a lot. Like when a room gets good, they like adding like one more guy and just bringing it over the top and saying like we're really going to have a dogfight, and whoever wins this competition is going to, like the tight ends last year, they doubled up on it. They seemingly draft off like a defensive lineman every single year, no matter how many guys that they have. And yeah, I think they just want to create a really athletic, competitive atmosphere in practices as much as possible. And I think like the receiver room, you may think that you can get complacent and like, oh, it was pretty good towards the end of the stretch, and then they just add some freak SEC athlete, and then all of a sudden it's all turned on its head. I think that's very possible, but it's not really here. Like maybe they would like Worthy for the same reasons the Dolphins would. He's not there anymore. Brian
I don't know.
Thomas,
Mitchell around 25 would feel pretty
Mitchell?
decent. He's crazy athletic. I could totally see that. I feel like that fits what they'd look at. I don't know how
Mitchell could
bad
fit
their
here.
need for like a tackle is. And if they like crazy athletes, Mims is still there.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that could be a
Mims is still
possible
there, and Guyton is still there, and Jackson Powers Johnson is still there. Those are probably who I'd expect the most. Adonai Mitchell could be interesting if we go wide receiver theory. They just usually don't take guys with like effort concerns. I feel like the Packers. He just doesn't feel like a Packer to me, I guess. Like I feel like all those other guys do more.
That's fair.
And that's a gut feeling, honestly.
That's fair. I think Mims would be pretty nice here.
He's super crazy, and maybe they say like, look, the board hasn't fallen the way we want it to fall. We're the ultimate offensive line developers, and Mims and Guyton are the two freakiest ones. So I think that they would like to develop one of those two. Probably Mims, I would say. That seems like a more common mock.
Mims feels like a pretty solid pick once you start getting down in the first. I mean, the injury concerns are big, and honestly, my take on him is kind of the same as Zion Williamson, where it's like this guy is so big and so athletic, it's going to be a real battle to stay healthy. Same thing with like, I know I can basketball, but like Joel Embiid, where it's like he's just so
Anthony
big
Riddick.
and he moves so quick. Yeah, Anthony, it's like it's really really tough. And Mims, is a bigger guy than even both those dudes.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's how every team is going to feel.
Yeah, I think
if
Mims
you're right, you're very right. Like it is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel pretty good with that. They have Zach Tom at right tackle, and he's a great right tackle, but he's a great everything. Like I think when he was coming out of Wake Forest, he was like a center, he was a guard, he was everything, and that's what.
Yeah.
So you could put Mims as kind of that pure tackle and move Tom around to guard or center or something like that, and I think that would make a lot of sense for Green Bay. And yeah, let's do it. I feel pretty good about that.
Mims
So that brings
season.
us to 26 Tampa Bay. I feel like a best player available type team to me, even this late. I think Verse makes a lot of sense. They could use another edge.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
the only
what I would
problem
be
with
thinking.
Verse is that I just feel like Flores is such a dropper. Like he just designs such crazy blitzes where I feel like these guys will be dropping into coverage, and I always feel like his edges are kind of notably good at that. Like even Vita Vea, as big as he is like kind of effective. Like he's asked to drop, and he's kind of effective doing it. And Verse is just kind of that straight ahead power rusher, and I think he makes more sense in like a San Francisco type scheme where it's just the four guys down, like going after it every play. I'm not totally sure if he's a Flores scheme fit, where you might need to be a little bit more of a all around athlete. That's my only concern.
I could see.
Like,
I
think
could
Verse
see
might be the
that.
best player available here, but I just don't know.
Tampa. I know Bucks fans really want an edge. I know
They need one.
really, they really want an edge. If we're not going to go Verse, though, I would also consider a corner, either Wiggins or Kool-Aid here.
I mean,
But
I would take Wiggins. To me, he's the best player available. Even if
I would agree with you.
Flores.
What am I talking about? I'm getting my blitz happy.
I was thinking.
Bull.
I didn't even hear. I didn't even hear
I know what you
that.
meant. I just
Yes, Flores.
fair enough.
he got chopped before Bulls could. But I like Chop in a fit of one of these creative blitzing guys who would use Chop, however. So I like him to one of those two places. I like Wiggins more. I think they could use corner help, and I think Wiggins is a great one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Wiggins at 26 would be insane value, in my opinion. Depends on how much you buy into all of the sort of, the pre-draft stuff. And was he vaping while having an interview with the team, which it would be crazy to do.
That should rise his value.
I genuinely, honestly, like, so get it, though, if that was to, like, really piss a team off and take him off his board. It's just like, you can't chill out for like 20 minutes, man. Jesus.
I did watch
4 hours during game days. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Bro was fiending for
I mean,
if you had one first round draft pick, I don't know.
I would still take him. He's high on my board. He rolls out of bed and covers if he's not. And it makes sense, like the character concerns. I watched an interview with him, and he mentioned like how he was continually late to like practice early in his career at Clemson, and like wasn't super buttoned up and had to talk to Dabo, and really his interviews like at the combine, like he wasn't like as articulate as some, and it was just didn't have that like natural personality, I guess, that some guys do. But it's like you go back to the film and he's pretty good, and it's like how the rumors and like breaking down combine interviews to me is like a very inexact science. And even if he falls, like this would be, I think, a bit of a fall.
Yes.
I don't know. So I like Wiggins to Tampa. I think that you should know, listener, like, yeah, there are some questions with him, but from a personality standpoint, but I still think he could sneak into the back half of the first and yeah, that's what I think. I think he could sneak in the back half of the first anyway, because he's locked down in man.
He is, man. He is.
Yeah.
And that's the exact type of guy you want for a blitz happy defense, you know? All right.
Flores has gone more zone blitz, but I think he's good in zone too. I think he's good in zone. I think he's just good. Like I think he really has the best coverage tape of any of these corners. It's just he's light. His run support is lacking, and the character concerns, which
whatever.
There's a lot of corners who can't defend the run and have character concerns. You know, it's like I've seen worse, I guess, in terms of rumors.
That's true. That's not exactly an unheard
Remember,
of
the Browns drafted The Browns drafted Justin Gilbert in the first round, so
yeah,
you can't do much worse than that.
You know, yeah. Let's move on.
Arizona Cardinals, pick 27. We had them take Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick 4.
I think this could be the first pick. I think this is, I mean, they need to add more defensive talent. Verse here, I feel like would be, again, really good value. I agree he's stiff, but I think he's still a really good player.
Yeah, he has serious power. I mean,
I wonder if this is like the absolute bottom of his range. I would genuinely be stunned if he went even one pick farther than this.
Yeah, if the Cardinals were on the clock and they need an edge rusher super bad,
and
there's such a fall off between after Verse is gone. I actually should take that back, because Darius Robinson isn't crazy far off from what Verse does in terms of like a powerful guy.
I like Verse a decent amount more. I like Robinson too.
Mm-hmm. There's Robinson and Nealand who are kind of those speed to power guys. So maybe the fall off.
There's some guys with some juice, but I don't think with the.
It's pretty bad though. Like if maybe in the power genre, there's some guys who you can squint and see, but like after Verse on the PFF board, it's Isaac and Ellis and like Jalix Hunt and Austin Booker and like Solomon. And those guys are not good to me. Like, and they might be the next best edges available. I don't know. So
yeah.
I think Verse is very good value for that reason, because I think the day two edges, it gets really thin really fast. So yeah,
if you're the Cardinals, you know, you need to build out your defense. They're almost in a Rams like situation where it's like, we just got to find some talent here. We got to do whatever we can do. So when you get a good defensive player at a valuable position that you can't draft, you know, later in the draft, most likely, I mean, this is a layup, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Verse is plenty good as a power rusher. He'll be productive.
Yep.
That brings us to 28 and the Buffalo Bills.
This is receiver. Which one?
I mean, Adonai is kind of the one that stands out.
Yeah, I think they need to add another receiver. And I think they're one receiver away from me feeling pretty decent about their weapons overall, honestly. If you believe in Kincaid and you think Knox is a solid guy and you like Shakir a decent amount, then it's like, okay, if we can get one really like over-the-top explosive guy.
And Cook, I think Cook is an underrated weapon.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Yes.
Get respected, but
he did finish very, very high in like the total rushing yards last year, and in a way that like I don't think he gets thought about the way that most players who are like second in rushing yards would. He had 1,600 all-purpose yards last year. That's a lot, man. Like it's a ton.
It's a ton.
I'm sure we'll be reminded when fantasy season comes around, but
we will.
I think Mitchell absolutely like. Look, there's the concerns with the effort or whatever. I think they're valid, but there's no doubt that he has number one, go out and get it done upside. And I think at 28, I mean, I'd be very shocked if he went later than 28 is how I'll put it. I think this is nearing the bottom of his range, unless people really have a problem with the work stuff, which I don't know if I have the insight to call one way or another.
I think they do, but I think at the same time, it's like the looseness in his body and like his releases and the way he just run routes in general. Like it reminds me of Diggs, but he's 6'4". Like it's pretty crazy how fluid and smooth he can be. And man, he's a boomer bust type guy. The effort stuff like running clear outs. And I watch guys get jammed up because he's kind of jogging the clear out and there's like a sail or something coming underneath it. And there's just not a lot of room for it to go because he's just kind of half-assing it, or what side of the field the ball is going to go to on an RPO because it's like he's just like standing there before the snap. Like you could and just when the ball gets snapped, he like is literally like walking because the ball is not going that way, and so it's like, okay, I know where the ball is.
I will say I have seen some rumors on Twitter that the Bills could be looking to trade up for a receiver, but then I've also seen rumors that their GM is saying that they don't need an X receiver. Like I'm not sure.
Weasel word where he's probably means. Like, we don't need an X receiver, but we need
a Z.
Like, oh, the fans get too caught up in like X receiver, and I could see him being like, the fans get too caught up in like wide receiver 1 or X or like position. Like, we don't need anybody specific like that. So, but like, do you need a receiver then? Well,
yeah.
I could see that being.
Do they need to be probably the best receiver on your team? Hopefully.
Do they need to be out on the boundary, like winning down the field? Like,
but you could call him any ladder.
Right. It's like in our offense, that's really just more of a playmaker. Okay. Take that, Brandon Beam. I just made up a scenario.
I just strawman you, dumbass. You suck, buddy. Look how stupid you would sound saying this thing I entirely made up, bro.
I could, but it does happen sometimes. I feel like where
no. I totally get where you're
LaFleur did it super bad one time where he's like, some idiot says we play with 4 down linemen and there's only 2 or something like that. And it's like 2 guys with their hand in the dirt and then 2 like stand up edges. It's like, dog, that's what they meant, dude. Like,
it's like, sorry, they're not like in the building with you.
Yeah, you got like super nitpicky at a conference over like, it's ridiculous that someone said we play with 2 down linemen when clearly we have. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was like, holy shit, dude, that's not what they did. Like, they meant what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a little pretentious.
It was like slightly off from your building, like whatever. Anyway,
Adonai Mitchell at 28.
Yeah.
Okay. So that brings us to the Detroit Lions at 29.
corner feels like they're kind of, boxed in.
Kool-Aid's right here, man. Kool-Aid's right here.
Who's the
I think it
biggest
makes sense.
kneecap eater, though?
Well, the problem, I think it's DeJean. I think that's like their best corner fit. He's just not here.
Hmm.
You could argue that they would like maybe trade back
Hmm.
if somebody wanted to trade back up into the first.
Yeah,
Um,
I could
like,
definitely see that happening.
for instance, I mean, one thing that you can think of is like we didn't let a lot of these dudes get quarterbacks. So there's a couple of teams sitting here right now. The Broncos, I don't believe we gave them a quarterback,
The
and the
Patriots.
Patriots are
Yeah,
the
we
two
can have the
big ones.
Patriots trade up for Penix.
Yeah, I think that
We'll
makes a lot of
let that
sense.
happen here. I mean, we've been hearing the entire time that like,
Well, the
hey, watch
Patriots are
for.
at 34. Like, who's taking a quarterback?
But you get a
ahead of
fifth
them?
year. You get the fifth year
Yeah, it's
option
for the
if you
fifth
take
year
them in the
option,
first
and
round.
it's in case that
That's
somebody
right.
else trades up ahead of them as well.
Yes, that as well. So you get more freedom with this contract. The Vikings did it with Bridgewater when he was the last pick in the draft.
Yep.
The Ravens trade.
The Ravens
The
did that
Ravens
with
did it with
Lamar.
Lamar, and rightfully so. I mean, if you're going to pick a guy at 34, you might as well spend the extra fifth and pick him at, 29. Not saying it would be a fifth; it'd probably be more like a fourth or whatever. But I think that makes sense for Detroit. And if Detroit would be wise if they could pick up a fourth to move back these spots, they'd be wise to do it, I think.
Yeah, I could
Okay.
I could definitely see the Lions trading back and being the team to do that. I do think there's another corner that might be a kneecap eater for them, and it's one of my guys, Kamari Lassiter. I could see it.
They
Although
could
he
get
is a
him at
bit
34.
he is a bit
They
in the
could get him at
Brian
34.
Branch mold already. So maybe that's.
And that's
Yeah,
why I
it
feel
couldn't
like a
hurt
lot
to
of the
have two
guys
guys
that
like
really
that.
work for them, it's like maybe at 34,
Yeah.
we'd be just fine.
Okay.
So yeah, let's do that, and then let's have the Patriots take Penix.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see
I
it.
am A-okay to make that happen.
I think Penix has enough juice to where I'm at least interested to see what he could do. I think it'd be pretty tough sledding in New England without a ton of weapons, but they do have Brock Bowers in this fantasy world, which
They do.
the Patriots leaving the first round with Brock Bowers and Michael Penix. I wouldn't exactly bet my life on this, fellas. But
I wouldn't
Dude,
be
you
mad
can get
at
it
it
plus
though.
5,000, bro.
you could,
Like,
you could
can
get
bet a
huge
lot of money and get a lot of money. Yeah, I don't think I'd bet on that either. But I would bet on a team moving back to the late first round and potentially grabbing Penix. I just don't think Penix's issues are like that much more glaring than Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy's or even
Right.
Drake May's. I mean, if we're accepting the fantasy world where Drake May is not the number 2 overall prospect, clearly, in his blatant misses that happen somewhat frequently actually matter. Like Penix has accuracy issues, and he doesn't go over the middle much, but it's like Jaden kind of has accuracy issues over the middle too. Like when he targets
And
the middle of the field, I
Jaden's
don't think
pocket
they're
presence is
necessarily perfect. Jaden, yeah, when things gets hard, like Jaden likes to scramble. McCarthy never throws with any touch. Like everything is one speed, and like he winds up a crazy amount to throw everything, and like takes a full step into everything. So his mechanics are a little weird, and he misses everything to the left because he overstrides when he takes that step. Like there are pretty major problems with those two. Drake May has the accuracy, and then Penix has his share of problems. Like he's more generally accurate than precise. Like he can get it to Rome's vicinity, but is it always perfect? No.
but it's Rome.
Can't really move.
Right.
But he's in a real offense. Like he's pretty aggressive down the field. Like he never ever gets sacked. His arm is legitimately super powerful. So you can maybe see it. And yeah, teams need quarterbacks. So
I like him more than I liked Mac Jones. So I would consider this an upgrade.
Real quick, is somebody bumping their mic?
No, it's me. I got a new
chance.
desk. The pull-out drawer in the drawer is kind of loose, and that's what's being bumped. Sorry, listeners. But yeah, let's do it.
All right. So that's Michael Penix. Now we are at pick 30, Baltimore. The Ravens. They're going to do something. If I know them, they're going to pick a player that I love.
Well, who would that be at this point? Jackson Powers Johnson, but they already
Powers
have.
Johnson, Yeah, they wouldn't take because they have they took a center that I loved last year, so they're not going to do that again this year. Kool-Aid's here. They could take him if they were to take a receiver. They could take Leggett.
You know, let's do it. Let's give him Leggett because I heard that they liked Leggett. I don't even remember. This was like me scrolling my timeline where like some Ravens person said like they like Leggett. So they do always take who you like, Blaiden, and they do need a receiver because
or it's not even that they'll always take someone that I like, because I mean they took Kyle Hamilton, who was like the best prospect in that draft.
Well, not really. I mean, we were the only.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, to us, he was the best prospect in that draft. And we're like, how the fuck did he fall to like 15? Yeah. And it's like, of course he fell to the Ravens. So, I mean, unless there's someone here that's like falling like crazy, which there isn't. So Leggett seems like
I think it could happen. I think it could happen. The other name I'd like to mention is Guyton. But I think Leggett could happen as well.
That'd be very possible.
I mean, they're both kind of similar in that they're like raw, but extremely talented. So,
yeah, I'm fine with Leggett. I think it makes sense. They need a receiver. But do you think they go back-to-back receivers in the first? I don't know.
Maybe not. Flowers and Leggett are very different players.
They're very different players. That's true.
So I mean, they would probably pair really well together. I don't know. You just need a guy that can go get shit, and that's what they don't have. I don't know.
No, I agree. I think Leggett could happen. It says this is Cole Jackson. He's the bio isn't helping. He says just a guy at Ravens.
Oh no. I mean, Tinder bio, brother.
He has 14,000 followers. And he writes he writes for the Ravens. He's a guest writer for the Ravens. Okay. And he said I've heard some mumbles that they are very high on Leggett on their board, much higher than consensus.
Interesting.
Is what he said that he heard, and he's a guest writer for the Ravens, so it's not unthinkable that he might know somebody. So we can go with Leggett. There is a little bit of smoke there. It would fit the Ravens take Blaiden's favorite player every year thing. So
it would. All right, Leggett it is. All right, that brings us to the 49ers. We had them trading up for Graham Barton, or not trading up. We had them trading Ayuk to the Steelers. They got pick 20 and took Graham Barton. And then here at pick 31, they can kind of do whatever they want.
Well, I think receiver would end up being a pretty big need for them if they let go of Ayuk. And I think the top receiver on the board is probably Troy Franklin.
I could see Troy Franklin being a good pick for them. He's fast. He's smooth running his routes. Like, I think that he could be a decent Ayuk replacement. If you traded Ayuk and got Franklin and Barton, you could say like, okay, we got cap space, we got Barton, we got Franklin. Like that might be good value. I could see Franklin being the pick. The way he rolls through the breaks, I think, is really underrated. I really think that he's not just this linear, straight line and get targeted on goes and he's probably going to drop it or maybe he'll catch it. Like, I think that people think that that's all he is. Like, he's just a straight line guy, but he is a lot more refined and elastic, I feel like, than people think.
To me, he's definitely a more nuanced, like, route runner than, like, Corey Coleman was.
Yeah.
Right?
The issue with him is, and why I think the 49ers potentially wouldn't take him here, blocking in Shanahan's schemes.
Yeah.
They are the best blocking group of receivers, and it's so crucial with what they do that they might look at Franklin and say, Ladd's not that good at blocking either, man. And honestly, that might be the biggest.
But he at least tries.
Yeah, but He's just not that big. Like
Come on, man.
maybe he could get there, but he's just not that big. Maybe. I don't know.
Would you consider a corner here? I guess I just keep trying to push Kool-Aid agendas,
Kool-Aid. I think you could consider a corner here. I mean, they had Ambry Thomas getting cooked all playoffs.
Kool-Aid,
and then
would
they
be a great
benched him,
pick.
and then they benched him in the Super Bowl for Logan Ryan, who's like a 33-year-old journeyman. So yeah, corner could work, and so could tackle still if they wanted to go with Guyton and add two people. That's probably more likely than receiver. I think they'd probably have to maybe wait till round 2.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. They did sign Rock Yassin, so maybe not. But did that? Yeah. No. Yes, they did.
I don't know.
reading.
It's a tough one. I think they'd be really risking being incredibly light at receiver if they didn't pick one.
You know what? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I think that maybe the Ayuk trade in general may not work out.
Yeah.
Kind of my thought looking at number 31 here in the receivers. And Blaiden, I guess it's an interesting. I think that you're right to some extent that the receiver class, there is a bit of a fall off, and it is a bit steeper than I think people think in the second round. I think I agree with that. And looking at it here, like after Adonai Mitchell goes, you've got.
Well, we have Leggett and Worthy already picked.
True, you're right about that.
Right.
Leggett and Worthy are already picked.
But I wouldn't consider Worthy like my concern is just like the number of guys that can be true ones.
Yeah, but I guess it is the second. Like I guess they're good second round picks, and it is the second round. So maybe I should. I don't know.
We can
Anyway.
take Troy Franklin here. I mean, if they need, I mean, they're gonna need a receiver at this point.
I don't think they'll end up with I just really think his blocking
Okay.
will make it like Shanahan will say no. Like we can't
Okay.
do it. I think it is likely though. I think corner is interesting because corner was a huge issue for them in the playoffs, and I never see corner getting mocked here. Maybe the Ayuk trade doesn't happen. We're wrong for no
the
reason.
Ayuk trade. The Ayuk trade doesn't happen, and they just end up taking JPJ with this pick,
But
or Guyton if he's here. But
if the board fell, if wide receiver really went off the board like this, that would be very unfortunate for them if they traded Ayuk. But I do think that corner could be an interesting sneaky need for them because I never see it mocked. And because offensive line is also such a need, but here they could address both, which would be nice. And maybe they could just get it done with no receivers. Maybe Shanahan would say, "New challenge for me." Like,
new challenge.
We're gonna
receivers.
have the number 1 offense in the league based solely on like the
man.
angle I can draw up this crossing route. Like I'm just gonna draw such a good angle to run it at that no one can defend it, and Ray McLeod will get it done, and we'll have Kool-Aid and we'll have Graham Barton, and it'll be awesome.
14-degree crossing routes.
It'll somehow
be-
some of the perfect angle, and if Kittle runs the hitch like this, and if Juwan Jennings
they will cook and mesh. I don't know. They wouldn't be that light on. I mean, they'd have McCaffrey, Kittle.
It wouldn't be light on weapon.
And McCaffrey, Kittle, and I'm now blanking on his name. Debo. I always do that. That wouldn't be a bad group of weapons.
They ain't trading Ayuk.
Why did we let Theo talk us into this? But I don't know.
Let's go Kool-Aid.
Let's go
All right.
Kool-Aid. You're right. They do still have Debo. They're fine. They have Debo and Shanahan, and that's all they need for their receiver room. We're back.
We're back. Kansas City.
I saw a tweet connecting them to Kingsley. What was his last name? Suamataya. Who could be one of those like random ass first round picks. When I watched him, I was like really impressed with his athleticism and thought his ceiling was pretty crazy high. He is fascinating because he is constantly going for the counter with his hand fighting. Like he's constantly hand fighting. His hand fighting isn't bad. It's just that he's always doing it. And if you just grab the guy, you don't have to like do some Jedi move with your hands. Just he never just like grabs the dude. He's always trying to get into some like deflection battle. And I'm like, he's really quite good at the deflection battles sometimes. And like some of his reps are like super, super impressive with what he's able to do with his hands. But I'm like, just shut the rep down immediately, please. And like he'll be out in space and like won't quite know where to go and won't block anybody. So he is a project, but he does have the first round tools that you're looking for. And like, if he is that good at hand fighting, like, could you just teach him, like, just grab the guy, and then all of a sudden you've got an all pro player, and fix his pad level maybe. So I could see them there being some smoke there that some team likes him in the first round, but I don't know if it's enough to mock it. But that's just what I saw from beat reporters on Twitter.
And outside of that, it's receiver. They could go Franklin.
Yeah.
Or they could go Lad. That kind of feels like what they would probably think about doing here.
I mean, they could go Lad, I guess.
I was leaning Franklin for him, but
I wonder why.
Well, I actually think it works.
I actually
think it works worse for the Panthers because they've met with Franklin and they haven't met with Ladd, I don't think.
Oh, tough.
Yeah.
So it would be worst case scenario for
this
Carolina.
would not be a great way for the board to fall, but I think that what it tells me is that we've maybe been a little bit too much what we would do during this whole thing. But
it's a stay hot podcast, buddy. You're getting stay hot takes. We can go with Franklin, I think. I think that would make sense. I do think that he's an underrated receiver. But another person they got connected to by Schrager was Jalen Polk. And
I've heard his name sneaking up into the first round a decent amount. It's like, oh.
And Schrager's more connected than us. So if the Chiefs need a wide receiver and like Schrager is friends with Veach or something like that, and he thinks they could go Polk. Could they go Polk? I don't know.
He's definitely heavier.
Polk is almost like he's like in the Robert Woods type of like useful mold as opposed to that take the top off type of thing. Like, is he the Kelsey replacement?
They're saying. So certainly isn't any of the other tight ends in this class. Yeah, I mean, I'm down to go Polk. If that's what you want to do, or Franklin's probably the easier lay. But yeah, we'll go Polk.
Let's go Polk just because Schrager did it.
We got to do something crazy here. All right, and then pick 33, the last pick in the draft, of course.
You're on the clock, Matt.
I mean, what I would do here, I mean, I would legitimately take Ladd if this is the way the board fell. And I've warmed up to Xavier, not Xavier Worthy, Xavier Legette over him. And in fact, if he falls to 33, it's looking like the Panthers are going to take him.
Ooh.
Which would be dope. I really like him a lot. Really I'm a huge fan, not even just as a player, but he seems like a cool dude. Maybe the Panthers don't go. Well, we still have with Franklin still on the board. I think they probably go with him. Another guy to take the top off the defense they desperately need. Maybe not the physical big body that Legette is, but at least he can challenge teams downfield, which I think is a bigger deal than maybe getting a Ladd type guy.
Yeah. My other thought is they did acquire Deontay Johnson this offseason, and I wonder if Jackson Powers Johnson falling to this point, would they consider that?
Nah, probably not, because they have Corbett moving to center.
Oh, that's okay.
So all of their interior offensive linemen are well paid. So it's I mean, I wouldn't really think about it otherwise, but I think it's completely off the table.
I mean, if they met with Franklin, I think that he's a good receiver, and surrounding Bryce with weapons should be the number one priority. I don't think it's the only priority, but it's just I don't know what else they like. Like they could use.
Well, and that's the thing.
They go after like Edgerrin Edrin Cooper or like Lassiter.
It
or
feels
one of the
it feels
corners.
really risky having Deontay Johnson and Troy Franklin in the same receiving room. That feels like it could be a disaster, but
The drops might be.
they might lead the league in drops, man. They might.
No.
Possibly.
But you have to do something.
We don't have to invent some position for them to draft because it's lame for them to go receiver at 33.
No,
I don't. Yeah, we
Troy
don't.
Franklin's fine.
I just think
that.
we should. I just want to raise the question, like, oh, the Panthers are on the clock. What receiver will they take?
I think
I
I
will
would
be the
really
nerd
think
at the
about.
back of the
I would
room.
really think about Kool-Aid or Nate Wiggins if one of those two corners fell, and I think corner's a huge need for them. They could do that, but they also have another pick at 39. Is the other thing.
Yes.
And Franklin makes a lot of sense at 33 because I don't know if he would last at 39. In fact, I kind of feel like he would.
Probably.
Yeah, I love Troy Franklin. So
They could use another edge, but as we said before, none of them are worth taking here. They could use a tight end. None of them are worth taking here. Offensive line, they're completely set unless they want to tell Icky he's done. So no way they're doing that. Receiver we just covered. Interior defensive line, there's nobody here to take. We already said edge. Linebacker, I mean, maybe Peyton Wilson, maybe.
Kai Wingo, baby.
Come on, man.
Him and Derek Brown would be special. Oh,
yeah, and that's
I'm not
what
moving
they
you up.
and that's what they make fifth round picks for. It is.
fifth round picks.
Safety, no. Like if the board fell this way, which it's not a very good way for the Panthers at all, it's Franklin, and I don't even think it's a question. I don't think there's that many other guys here that are worth taking. That makes sense for Carolina.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Troy
Franklin.
Ladder. Maybe they like Keon Coleman. Who knows? And you don't always visit with the guys you end up taking. So I think any of those receivers with their first two picks would be really strong. But
yeah, all right. So Troy Franklin, and that rounds out our mock draft. We could give the Lions a pick here, Theo. If you wanted to give him Kamari Lassiter, I think that would be okay.
Why don't we say that?
Lassiter, like Max Melton or something. I can see them liking him.
But we'll give him Kamari Lassiter, and that'll round out our, because we traded them out of the first round, so it's like it's only fair that we let them at least have a pick here.
Let's give them Max Melton.
Oh, I already did the.
Okay, never mind. I
already clicked the button.
Max Melton would be my last second Lions weird fit, but
Max
whatever.
Melton. All right. That rounds out our mock draft for the whole first round. It will be 100% accurate, and we never get anything wrong. Do we want to talk about the NBA at all before we get out?
Honestly, I gotta go to class.
Yeah, we're kind of running late here.
All right.
I don't know TikTok. Check Matt's TikTok. Run up those numbers. Comment if you liked it. Repost it.
I don't know if what we have in this mock is exactly going to happen. I mean, it could be Daniels at 2 and then a disaster from there on out, which I feel like has a real chance to happen. But I think it's at least a decent balance of what could happen with maybe what kind of we would do, and then with a couple of fun things mixed in there. So I don't hate it.
It's not a bad mock. The Ayuk trade might not happen.
But it's weird,
the
and weird
Raiders
stuff
trade
happens.
Up might not happen, but
there's enough weirdness.
If the
mixed
Ayuk
in.
trade does happen, it's my fault. If the Ayuk trade does happen, maybe they just go Mitchell at 20.
Yeah,
and then it's a lot easier. But anyway,
yeah. Anyway, thank you all so much for tuning into this mock draft. Make sure you tune in later to watch us react to the NFL draft in real time. Our fourth draft in a row doing this live watch party. Should be a fun time. But until then, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the flippity flop.